What's going on, everybody? Jeff here. Welcome back to the channel and happy Thanksgiving. AMC spiking up to that $8 level after hitting a little bit of resistance, trying to break through it based on some news that was released. We're going to go over in just a minute what it could mean for the company, and especially in the short term, but more specifically in the long term, talk a little bit about the entire market. So let's get right into it. First off, just a brief overview of the Fed minutes that was released about an hour and a half ago. The minutes have shown that Fed officials are starting to back the thoughts of slowing down the rate hikes. Now, we've been talking about this for quite some time. These 75 basis point hikes just cannot continue. Eventually, they're going to have to start to slow down. That is the first sign of a potential pivot, okay? It doesn't mean the stocks are going to rally right away. It just means that, okay, Fed rate hikes are starting to slow. Okay, then they're probably going to stop, and then eventually they're going to go back to QE. Probably not with massive stimulus, but they're going to go back to QE and start to lower some interest rates. Probably won't happen until at least the end of 2023 to potentially early 2024. I do see the economy really struggling at that point, and therefore the Fed is going to need to step in and do what it always has done over the past couple decades, okay, and have to lower interest rates in order to kickstart the economy. But that's where you saw the market start to pump a little bit. If you look at the CME FedWatch tool, what is being currently priced in right now for a rate hike, it's sitting around this 75 to 85%. Now, last week, they did have 85%. I'll show you this. 85% was priced in that there was only going to be a 50 basis point hike, all right? Now, this is going to happen on December 14th. If we do see another 75, expect the market to pull really hard to the downside. If we do see that 50, gives a little bit of relief, especially heading into, historically a very strong month. Might potentially see a little bit of a Santa rally. We didn't get one last year. Might potentially see that. Now, it doesn't mean the market is bottoming, okay? These are all short-term things. Obviously, CPI could come out a little bit hotter than expected and completely derail everything. That's why it is good to take a look at things before they happen. Now, just briefly, I want to show you this chart. Now, I know it's probably is a little bit confusing with some of these lines here, where we are currently approaching, okay, on the SPY right now. All right, so this is a volume profile I have off here to the right. I don't really look at this intraday as, like I said, I trade basically off of setups and trend lines, but this gives me a bigger picture of where the market could potentially headed and what setups I'm looking for. Am I looking for long side setups? Am I looking for downside setups? And right now we are about to enter not only, okay, the gap going all the way back to September when we had that massive shock to the CPI, we're also entering a price gap, but also entering a volume gap. Now, something I learned a long time ago when I started looking at volume gaps was someone once said to me, listen, volume gaps fill a lot more often, okay, than price gaps. And it was something that was new to me and something I paid a little bit more attention to, okay, especially over a longer time frame. And this is very well worth noting. You've got this 405 to 410-ish level on SPY, okay, where there is not only a volume gap, but once you get above that, there is massive supply, all right? So this is going to be a spot where I'm looking to take a longer dated short position. We also have, and you can go ahead and look this up, look it up on, /ES, which is the SPY futures on the daily chart, the 200-day moving average. This is a simple moving average, not the exponential moving average. It's sitting somewhere around that 4060 to 4070 level. All right, and it's a good chance we might bounce off of that. And like I said, it will give you a really good risk reward to get some exposure to the downside, especially over longer dated. Just wanted to talk about that. Now let's get into AMC. First off, we bounced off that $8 level. I have it marked off on my charts. Okay, if you zoom out to the daily, we've covered this before, that we've seen some rejection going back into that middle of November, had the volume. Looks like we're going to try to, test that again. It'd be nice to eventually get that breakthrough, potentially get up to C11 and go a little bit further to see that gap. We're going to need a little bit more time. Now, this setup has held, even though we started to break down just a little bit, the entire market did. This setup has held of this long basing area towards the upper level of that resistance, right? Now, there's only so many knocks that we can eventually get through it before we eventually break to the upside. So let's talk about what happened today. Now, fast stock market or fast stock news. Okay, if you're not following this guy, he gets news out insanely quickly. All right, he had tweeted that Amazon plans to invest $1 billion a year in movies for cinemas. Now, let's just digress a little bit. Okay, Amazon has really taken on any single competitor, direct competitor, and even just potential up and coming, competitors over the last decade. All right. They've made a ton of money. They have invested a ton of money. They have a lot of cash on hand over the past 10 years that they've, accumulated in order to really, reinvest in their companies, build out new verticals. And it's, you've seen that they've mastered the subscription based service model. Just to talk about the subscription based service model a little bit, think about over the last 10 years, everything has gone to subscription based. Okay. Whether it's, a few dollars a month to, maybe $100 a year or whatever it is a very strong business model, and Amazon perfected it. They came out with Amazon Prime, free 2-day shipping at the time. Now, I mean, some of it is 1-day shipping, even some same day shipping, depending on where you are located and what specific products. They've done a great job at this. Now, they've really tried to compete with Amazon when it comes to the streaming space. All right. They have their Prime Video. They've lacked a little bit on the creation of their own content. That was something that Netflix had struggled with, which is why their stock had, fallen down a little bit. They needed to start to bring in some of their own content, create their own movies and so forth. Amazon, as you can see here, is willing to invest to really put themselves in a little bit better of a position, and also list some of these movies inside theaters. All right. They have seen a strong demand. Okay. And this is what was stated. They've seen a stronger demand coming out of the COVID, pandemic that we were in, really hurting these movie theaters. They've seen a strong demand. They've seen an increase, okay, in consumers wanting to go back to the movie theaters, and they're willing to invest to be able to get back in here. Here's a little article released by Seeking Alpha, which obviously they are very, very biased. But just to give you a short overview, Amazon plans to make about 12 to 15 movies for theatrical release each year. It's going to start with a smaller number in 2023 and slowly building upon that. Now, just to talk about verticals one more time, okay? You create the movies, you produce the movies, you host the movies. It's all verticals, okay? When it comes to business, and you've heard these rumors about them potentially purchasing AMC. I do think it is a bit of a long shot as of right now, just because, like I said, these are the infancy stages. Also, the physical infrastructure of a movie theater is a lot. It's buildings, they're large spaces, it's a lot. Okay. But they have made a little bit of a step into that direction. As I said, they spent $8.5 billion to acquire mini major and longtime studio MGM. So they're creating the content, they're producing it, and now, like I said, they're going to be partnering with movie theaters, multiple movie theaters. Obviously, AMC will take a good chunk of the share. The percentage of a share, I have no idea. We'll have to see, once this slowly starts to roll out. But because they are, a very strong theater and do have a lot of presence, not only in the entire United States, but outside of the U.S. as well, I do see it taking a good, portion of the share of the movies that are produced. So, like I said, it's a little bit of news. It's just enough to kind of start to get things rolling a little bit, and I hope to hear more strategic plans from Amazon, especially when they start to release some of these movies, what the movies are going to be based on and so forth. But like I said, it did help with a little bit of the boost in the share price today. So just wanted to cover that, guys. I will see you in the next one.